Well, hi, everybody. Thanks for watching the last two videos that we've had. We had Deacon Chandler Carricker a couple weeks ago, and then last week we had Pastor Chantal McKinney from Christ Beloved Community here on the South Side, hearing a little bit about how things are going at CBC since the pandemic. Today, we are welcoming back a familiar face from Epiphany's past, the Reverend Dr. Mary Shore. She is the Rector and Dean of Lutheran Theological Southern Seminary of Lenoir-Rhyne University. I hope I got all of that correct.
For a really busy t-shirt, yeah.
Yeah, and is a dear friend to Epiphany. Her roots here at Epiphany go back almost 30 years now, I believe, and hard to believe that. She was here preaching for us on a regular basis in between Pastor Conrad and then Pastor Gerhard being here, and has also come down to Epiphany while she was on the faculty at Luther Seminary up in St. Paul, Minnesota. Dr. Shore's ministry, since she received her PhD from Duke University, has involved her being active in both congregations and in the academy. She taught at Luther Seminary and then was pastor at Good Shepherd Lutheran Church over in Brevard before she took on this call as rector and dean of our seminary down in Columbia, where we happen to have one of their students, Jennifer Roberts, as our vicar this year. So, Dr. Shore, thank you for taking some time out of your schedule to meet with me and to talk a little bit more about one of our stewardship initiatives this year.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It's good to see you, and delighted to connect however I can with folks at Epiphany.
Great. So before we started recording, you started telling a little bit about your history here at Epiphany, and I'm sure that there are folks that may not remember that or that are new to the community. One of the things that you mentioned is that after you started on the faculty at Luther Seminary, that you would come back down to Epiphany about once a year or so and have some time here with the folks at Epiphany. Could you tell us a little bit about what that looked like?
Sure. I had met Pastor Steve Gerhard when he was in Raleigh and I was in Durham, and connected just a little. And then when I got up to Luther, I remember Pastor Steve getting in touch with me, and we set up one year I would just come down and introduce the gospel that was going to be read through the next lectionary year. And that went really well. And so we just kept doing it. I would find something to teach, and Steve and Barbara would host me at their house. And basically for the price of a plane ticket, I got to visit North Carolina and friends and do a little teaching. And the church got an introduction to usually some book of the Bible, either one of the Gospels or something. I'm also worked in Paul, and I think I did one on Paul one year. So yeah, it was kind of like a lay school of theology for a congregation and for others in the community who would want to come.
So one of our initiatives that we are promoting for 2021 is the idea of starting some sort of lecture series here at Epiphany, with the hope that we can bring folks like you who have expertise in areas of theology, biblical studies, and other areas like that to come in and to talk about your research and the things that bring you passion as a teacher in the academy. I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about how you see your role as a teaching theologian interfacing with local congregations a little bit, like Epiphany, for instance.
I think it's really important for Christians to know that they don't have to check their brain at the door of the church, that you can think about your faith without losing God's mercy, or losing your trust or whatever. In fact, loving God with my mind, heart, mind, soul, and strength is actually one of the ways I think about how I love God is to think really hard about hard texts and tough questions, and the fact that all of us are children of God, even the people that I would, want to vote off the island sometimes. Things like that, that's a theological question. And it's one we face every day. Doesn't matter who you are. How are you going to regard someone with whom you disagree? Dramatically sometimes. That's the sort of question that I think people like me get paid to think about every day, but then sharing that with someone helps to connect Sunday and Monday for folks who aren't necessarily in an academic environment every day. They're just trying to live their faith from church to home to work.
Because I would imagine you and the rest of the faculty there at Southern Seminary have lots of opportunities that you live out your faith on a daily basis. This is not just a Monday to Friday sort of teaching job for you, but I know that you talked to me about finding a church home in the Columbia area when you first moved there, and being able to find that. So for you and the faculty at the seminary, this is not just a head exercise, but it's something that you put into practice, I would assume.
That's absolutely true. And I want to tell you a story that comes from one of our Facebook pages. We're like everyone else, we're just socially distanced. But one of our new students this fall wrote a Facebook post early on. She'd been in class a couple weeks, and she said, "Does this happen to anybody else? It seems like I get a theme from a class, and then it shows up in every other area of my life. So a conversation with my mother or my son or somebody at my workplace, and all of us are talking about belief and belonging, or whatever the topic is for the week." And one of our faculty, Dr. Brent Driggers, chimed into this Facebook post, and he said, "I've been in seminary, I think 22 years, and that still happens to me." Mm-hmm. You're thinking about something for a class, but then the Holy Spirit has this way, I guess, of saying, you know what, it's not just for the class, it's for these other relationships that you're in. Mm-hmm. And yes, all of us teach. We teach what we need to learn. We also teach what has given us life in terms of the faith. That's probably true of all teachers, but it's certainly true of seminary teachers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, you talked a little bit about life at Southern. How are things going since mid-March, since the pandemic became a little bit more of a reality here in the United States?
Yeah. Our campus has students on it, and some students are in class with masks and distance between them. Most of our students and about half of our faculty are thoroughly online now. So things are different. However, we've experimented with something called a flipped classroom, where you put all of your sort of didactic information online, lectures and so on. And then when you have time in person or in real time on Zoom, something like we're doing, you take that time for discussion and questions and pondering the material instead of presenting the material. Mm-hmm. And as hard as that is for faculty to do everything ahead of time, when we're used to just going into the classroom and, like, what do you want to know? And starting to talk, as hard as it is to plan ahead like that, it's turned out to be a really good learning environment. So I hope that we're learning some skills that we'll take with us out of the pandemic. But it's, I'm sure it's hard everywhere. I'm sure it's hard to be a parish pastor and not actually have the people looking at you and you with them when you're preaching and so on.
Yeah, I miss everybody. And I know that you all miss your students too. And what has been intriguing for me, and what I take from your comment, is that there are bits and pieces of this that might serve us well in a post-pandemic world. And I've been thinking about that too in terms of parish ministry. What sorts of things do we has God given us the opportunity to try on in this time that we can take as we move forward? And that's exciting, but it's also certainly filled with lots of hard work to figure out how do we do that, and what does that look like. So I hear you on that, and I'm sure there are a lot of folks in their various fields that have tried to figure that out. So
I think most of us are at a place where we don't actually think there's a going back behind COVID now, that there's not a getting back to normal, that normal will be a different thing whenever it arrives. And of course that's, welcome to life, right? That's, and welcome to the Holy Spirit guiding things. I mean, that's talk about, surprises. So yeah, we're trying to roll with the punches.
I think that's great that y'all are doing that. Greg Jones, who was on the faculty at Duke, where you did your PhD, first gave me the line. I heard him lecture once, and he talked about the Back to Egypt Committee. And this was in a pre-pandemic world where he talked about that in every church there was the Back to Egypt Committee, that wanted to see things the way they were beforehand. And there, I think you're exactly right. There is no going back to what was. There's only embracing what God is calling us to do and be in the here and now. But that's hard. That's hard work.
Yes.
So, well, hey, thank you so much for taking some time and joining me today. I know that you've probably got 100 other things that you need to be working on, but want to invite the folks at Epiphany to take some time and to think about how you could support this lecture series that we're looking at pioneering in 2021, and thinking about ways in which we can continue to grow in our relationship with God, and to figure out ways that the Spirit is calling us to grow as a community as well too. So, Dr. Shore, thank you.
Yeah, I love what you're doing. Y'all are doing. Thanks for the opportunity to visit.
Sure. It's great to see you. Please tell Hank that we all said hello. So.
Sure. Oh, he's in another part of the building. I can't get him.
Oh, okay. All right.
Well, I'm sure he would send his best, and I'll let him know I had some fun with Epiphany today.
Sounds good. All right. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Hey, everybody. Thanks for taking that time to watch that conversation with the Reverend Dr. Mary Shore. She is such a treasure and a dear friend of Epiphany, and I'm so thankful for her ministry at our seminary in Columbia, South Carolina. It's now time for you to take time to think about how you can support God's mission here at Epiphany. We are joyfully anticipating around $10,000 or even more of additional funds next year to help support God's mission here at Epiphany. And we hope that with that extra money, we'll be able to do things like have scholarships for our children at Luther Ridge, Luther Rock, Camp Agape, or Curie Beach, to have a lecture series where somebody like Dr. Shore or another noted scholar could come in and talk a little bit more about how their work as scholars for the church can be a blessing for those of us who are not in the academy, who don't teach or who aren't academics, and to also provide some additional funds next year that we know that we will need as we continue to recover from this pandemic, and we hopefully get to the point where we are safely regathered in our church building again. So take some time, prayerfully consider the blessings that God has given you, and think about how you can best respond to those blessings. As you write down a number or fill out that online form at epiphanyws.org/2021 offering, take some time to do that as an opportunity to be thankful for the many blessings that you have been given. And please know that any amount that you give is going to be appreciated, and we are thankful for the ways in which you continue to be a blessing to the life, mission, and ministry here at Epiphany. Thanks, everyone, and thanks for the ways in which God is using you in this time.